When my mother's name appeared on my phone, I knew what was going to happen because of the smugness in her voice. "Elena, honey, we just gave Bobby the money for his house down," she said before she had even finished her first statement. "Payment of $100,000, isn't that fantastic?" I tightened my hold on my coffee mug, forcing cheeriness into my voice. "I know you probably think that's fantastic, Mom. I wish you had assisted him as much, honey, but given your lifestyle choices, we knew you needed to concentrate on. You understand my lifestyle choices, such as creating a 7-figure consulting business from the ground up, such as financing their 35th anniversary or paying their house for 3 years after their father lost his job. In fact, Mom, I couldn't have afforded the cruise last summer. Bob has already selected the cutest 4-bedroom colonial home in Highland Park, ideal for when he eventually gets married to a lovely woman. You may recall Sarah from church? Her daughter recently moved back to town, so I let her talk endlessly. Just as planned, when I opened my laptop, a notification appeared from my banking app that they had attempted to access 3 attempts to log in the last hour. Mom, I cut in, and I should leave the joint account that I had discreetly closed last month. You know, Elena, guys don't find that very bye, Mom, but client meetings are always working. Give Dad my love. I hung up the phone and texted Monica right away to let her know what was going on. When they learned, Monica immediately responded, "Holy, you really did it." I glanced at my reflection in my home window, wondering if you were okay. 32-year-old self-made workplace that is finally finished with family. My phone buzzed once more, this time from Dad, then Mom, and finally Bobby. I silenced them all and checked my email, but instead I saw a message from my attorney, Zechariah. "Account protected. All evidence of your involvement has been eliminated. They are unable to contact you." When good girls cut, they feel guilty, which is what I should have felt now. Away from their parents, yet as the notifications mount, the frantic endeavors to obtain funds that were never truly theirs, I simply felt exhausted. Once ready, Monica texted me again to invite me over so we could have wine. In response, I said, "Burn family photos, rain check, but there's something you should see." Displayed a spreadsheet that I had been keeping up with for years, including all of my loans, emergency payments, and guilt trips. Triggered transfer, but the bottom total still made me cringe. My phone rang 3427654 once again, and this time, I answered Bobby. "Mom is stressing up because he was breathing heavily, and I'm wondering, Elena. The account is not empty. I fixed it and closed it. There is a difference. However, the down payment, you mean the $100,000, is what I need. Give you the impression that you were covered, but this was an emergency." I chuckled, really laughed, Bobby. "Your emergencies are mine. You're acting selfishly since I've been taking care of everyone's emergencies for the past 10 years. As though you're superior to everyone, but I cut him off since I've always been practical, but there's a change there as well." When the doorbell rang, I looked at I have a security camera, and my parents are looking scared on my front step. To go, "Congrats on the house." I hung up as a text message appeared on my phone. "I heard what you did, smart girl," from an unidentified number. "Let's discuss." I hadn't heard from my cousin Lucia, the other family exile, in years. The doorbell rang more insistently, but not because she had been labeled difficult for challenging our grandmother's wishes. This time, I saw my parents' faces on camera become progressively. Mom was crying, and Dad was holding papers that were likely bank statements out of desperation. I opened my calendar in my chair and sipped my now cold coffee. 2 months from now, Bobby's first mortgage payment would be due, and Dad's. They would figure out the property taxes and Mom's medical bills in 3 months. Every time they drained me dry and called it love, my phone rang with Lucia's voice, so they'd have to do the same. Message outside once more before my parents gave up and left, but not before. I didn't have to read the note my dad left under my door because I already knew what it stated. Family members never expect you to stop fulfilling your designated job as the dependable daughter. Handy ATM, the silent troubleshooter of others' problems. But roles can shift, and I was. After finishing mine, I grabbed my phone and wrote, "Hey Lucia, let's talk. Take a look. Are you eating enough, honey, or are you working too hard again?" On Sunday, Mom fiddled with my collar. Meal, her fingertips remaining there long enough to feel like a charge that a woman of your age should. I gave her a tight, cautious smile, saying, "Take care of yourself, you're not getting any younger." The fragrance of pot roast and phony politeness filled the dining room as I struggled to free myself from her hold. Bobby was absolutely beaming as he told Dad about his new house designs, and the main bathroom includes. He gave Mom a grin, saying, "This enormous soaking tub is ideal for a future wife." With a kind smile in return, Mom chirped that Rachel, Sarah's kid, is. She is a lovely girl who works part-time at the library and is unmarried once more. Appropriate hours compared to what you maintain, Elena. I used more effort to spear a potato than required. My hours work perfectly for me, Mom, and my company recently made 7 figures. Dad's fork clattered on his plate as the meal fell silent that year. Mom finally remarked, her voice dripping with anger, "That's very aggressive of you, sweetheart." I concluded, "And you indicated that males typically don't like women who earn more than them." Bobby chuckled uneasily a few times. "Come on, sis, there's no need to go all feminist about it. They're interested in learning about the wine vendor I'm actually planning to. Put down my fork and tell me how you're able to pay for all these upgrades given your car's salary." More stillness at the dealership. Dad cleared his throat. "That's not very what not. It's odd that you believed it was unladylike to beg for money when you needed me to pay your mortgage." Mom snapped because it was a different mindset of family supporting family. "This ruthless business mindset of yours is unhealthy." My phone buzzed and I received a text. I grinned as Zechariah filed the last papers, confirming your official clearance. "Actually, Mom, you know what's unhealthy this time? The fact that I paid for." Bobby's face lit up while you were saving money for his housing fund after your knee operation last year. "You're jealous because I got out of my chair, which is unfair. You coasted because I constructed, but I worked my ass off, so I'm scraping back. Something genuine while you awaited handouts or since I eventually ceased being everyone's fallback option." Elena. Dad banged his hand on the table, which is sufficient to express regret to your brother at this time. Mom flinched when I uttered a sharp, cold laugh. "What did you say?" I asked. "No, I'm done saying I'm too ambitious, too pushy, and I'm done apologizing for my success. Mom, I'm so over you treating me like a personality-disordered ATM and throwing money at Bobby." Began sobbing on cue. "How can you be so unkind after all that we have done for you?" I took out my phone and opened the Notes app because of everything you've done for me. "Let's review. Should we extend your mortgage by 3 years? Mom's surgery cost $48,000. $12,000 for Bobby's short-term loan and $35,000 for Dad's auto repair. You couldn't afford the $8,000 anniversary cruise, so stop it," Dad said. "Now You went on to offer Bobby $100,000 for an unaffordable home, assuring me I must be better suited for marriage in order for it to make sense," Mom. Bobby said. Face purple. "You're just upset because you're alone yourself. At least I'm working on creating a genuine life. What you believed would be my money was actually my parents' money, which is why. Since you knew I would see through it, you persuaded Nick to co-sign rather than ask me. His silence was sufficient." My phone buzzed once more. "Monica, are you okay?" "I texted you back almost immediately." Dad whispered quietly, "Don't bother, if you leave the room after we've met for 20 minutes. When I returned, I gave the man who had taught me to a serious look. Ride a bike and balance a checkbook, and now they're threatening me because I'm bold enough to achieve success on my own terms. I'm not the one who has to return, Dad, and I won't require anything from anyone else going forward." Mom shouted out, "Elena, please," as I grabbed my bag and made my way to the door. "We are your family." I made one final turnaround and said, "No, you're not, you're just." Those who anticipated that I would burn myself to keep everyone else warm are completely out of. My phone buzzed with a text message as the door behind me closed with a gentle click. "Did you do it, Lucia?" I said, "Yes." It was your time to walk to my car. As I drove away, the sun was lowering, creating lengthy shadows around my childhood neighborhood, where I discovered that being a good daughter meant being a practical one, where I eventually discovered how to say no in. My family was going to learn about that house with its well-kept exterior and well-kept yard. Your brother missed his first mortgage. What happens if their safety net chooses to save herself instead? Monica said, "Payment," as she slid into our typical seat at the coffee shop 3 weeks later. I stirred my latte without surprise, so I suppose he tried. According to your band call's history, she called me 17 times before pulling out. Additionally, your mom has been sharing passive-aggressive Bible phrases on her phone. What about ungrateful kids and eternal damnation on Facebook? When my phone rang with an unknown number, I took a sip of my coffee and heard Nick's voice clearly. I placed the call on for Bobby, so please don't hang up, Elena. Speaker for Monica's advantage. But what about him? He informed me that you would pay for the... I never would have co-signed if you had known he was lying about payments if things became tight, saying it was already set. I completed, yes, that tracks, Elena. Could you please check my credit score? I didn't cut in, and Bobby's mortgage and his lies after he... Monica hung up and leaned forward, saying, you know that this is going to get worse before it gets better, right? As if my phone had rang again. Just believe that the bank of Elena is closed. Mom, Elena's voice was shaky, so we should discuss Bobby's predicament. Your brother is having financial difficulties, and we are unable to assist him at this time. You're referring to the funds you depleted for his down payment, which was a unique pause. We believed that since you had always helped him in the past, you would assist him if he needed it. That's precisely the issue, Mom. You all thought I would keep repairing everything, but I didn't. You're so successful that you never once asked if I wanted to or if I could afford it. She sobbed, now that you have all those clients and that big business, I wonder what the family piggy bank is. That's unfair, we're related. Elena's family supports her family. I considered My laptop spreadsheet contains years' worth of one-way assistance recorded in hard copy. It's odd that numbers only appear to apply when I'm assisting other people. This is about patterns, and it's about the house money. Are you really this envious of your brother, Mom? Suddenly Monica was observing me with a worried expression on her face. Mom's voice tightened as she mouthed, you okay, Elena? If you don't aid your brother, he might lose everything, in which case he would understand my feelings each time you depleted my emergency funds, each time you rejected my accomplishments as being inherently incorrect or unfeminine. Did you realize that I had to put off purchasing my own because you chose him over me? House 3 years ago because I had to postpone my vacation last year to buy for the new truck that Dad wanted for his image. Yes, Mom, let's chat about Bobby losing, but your cruise silence is on the line. Monica slipped her hand over the table after I hung up, and you're trembling. I'm upset because I fixed it. My phone is different. Lucia texted me to let me know that they were phoning the entire family in an attempt to portray you as unreliable and unappreciative, so I texted them back. Monica scowled at her phone. Your mother had already shared 3 more verses from the Bible. And whoa, Bobby just burst into tears about family on Facebook. Despite my own toxic success, which is fresh, I smiled at treachery and toxic success. Elena, Monica's tone became solemn. Are you certain you're seeing them? I could feel fantastic right now, but I interrupted because this isn't about feeling nice. This is about allowing them to finally face reality. They made their decisions. Decided to allow Bobby to take advantage of me in order to construct their entire lives under the presumption that I would continue to make sacrifices for their comfort, and they are now able to live with those options. My phone rang once more. Nick had made a public post regarding Bobby's missed. Furthermore, family members were already taking sides in the comments that were flooding in. Old friends are shocked that your dad is messaging Monica, who said they are still keeping an eye on. I checked my calendar and saw that the fallout says he will be visiting your office tomorrow to settle this once and for all. I already know that the timing is ideal, and my lawyer will be present as well. I showed her the time of the meeting invitation for Zachariah and Lucia. Precisely what they've been doing with Monica, who has been sitting back and observing me, you know. The thing that worries me the most is losing control, not losing the money. Intended to be the trustworthy person, the fixer, and the nice daughter, but instead, I'm the mirror. I've finished revealing their true selves, and they detest it. Outside, rain has begun to fall steadily and softly somewhere across town. My parents were presumably still reading scripture about it, and my brother was still wailing on Facebook. Ungrateful kids, and I was at last released from the responsibility to provide for them. Lucia, I'm more than ready for tomorrow, and my phone buzzed one final time. Replied that it was time to demonstrate to them what the repercussions actually looked like. Lucia looked just as sharp as I remembered. She sat across from someone with sharper eyes, a smile, and a tightly controlled rage. I saw this coming 10 years ago when I was at the fancy restaurant, carefully stirring her martini. She claimed that although the specifics of the narrative were different, they did the same thing to me. I asked her about the trust fund, and she nodded. Your grandmother left it for us both. I was deemed unstable by my mother and my beloved aunt because I questioned their authority, and the next thing I knew, my family had turned against me and my money was gone. The challenging one, how much? 200,000 each, she sipped, but you You called me back because you already knew that, didn't you? I took out my laptop and opened the family folder. Assets, take a look at this. 3 weeks prior to their release, I turned the screen in her direction. Bobby, the house money was transferred from an old account that I had previously used to finance there. Lucia's eyes narrowed as she pushed forward in an emergency, using your own funds to send him the $40,000 down payment that I provided them for Mom's house last year. I closed the laptop bills for medical expenses that, for some reason, were never paid. The hospital's records indicate that Lucia sat back and they still. I don't believe they did anything wrong, but their mother called me in her most recent Facebook post. The server brought our entree, and since I'm Jezebel's daughter, we ate in quiet for. Before Lucia continued, she took out her phone and showed me an additional information you should know. Just keep in mind that the grandfather left all of the grandchildren that property in Spain. What about the villa? Your mother sold it, but my fork froze halfway to my mouth. 3 months ago, without telling you or any of the other owners. The restaurant was suddenly too heated and packed, so she wouldn't need. I have evidence that all of the signatures were fake, but Lucia's voice was soft. It's firm, Elena said, and they all have the money they gave Bobby. Just the beginning. Monica buzzed my phone and sent a screenshot of Bobby's most recent tirade on social media. Family is everything until achievement causes you to lose sight of your origins, which is hilarious, Lucia. When they are in need of money, they never seem to forget where to find us. Did you ever notice? I tried confronting them and asking about the trust fund, but I received the same answer. You're currently receiving lectures on family loyalty and Bible scriptures that gaslight you about how I was dreaming, she grinned glumly, but I surprised them by doing something unexpected. Everything I recorded, including every transaction, deception, and manipulation, made a case so robust they couldn't twist their way out of it. She pulled out a USB drive, just like you're doing now. I looked at the tiny gadget, which contained all of the bank's documents and valuables. She slid it over the table, revealing emails and documents detailing 10 years of their financial deception, including what they did to you. Think of it as insurance because my phone rang again, Dad, and we're still coming tomorrow. Ends, and they don't know if Lucia finds it amusing that we're 10 steps ahead of them. Contemplated tomorrow's meeting with Zechariah's meticulously prepared documents regarding the years of evidence I added, they taught us this all those lectures, which is ironic. About handling money carefully, keeping track of receipts, and safeguarding ourselves. They just never imagined that we would turn those lessons against them. The problem with narcissists, Lucia said, is that they believe. The waiter handed our check as I said, they are the only ones who can play the game. Sprang for it, but Lucia grabbed my wrist and said, consider it a down payment. She flashed that same piercing grin on our new relationship that had. You're not the only one who has been plotting, cousin. What they did to us is probably what scared our family years ago. Occurring to other women and families, and we will support them in retaliating. Zechariah confirmed the details of tomorrow's meeting when my phone buzzed one last time. I responded, you know they'll try to destroy us for this, and Lucia gave me a warm, genuine chuckle. Ferocious, oh honey, they tried that already, now it's our turn. We emerged into. In the nighttime air, my parents were across town from 2 exiles who became allies. Presumably preparing their assault for tomorrow, thinking they still had all the cards, but they were unsure of what they were. Arriving ready for tomorrow? Lucia inquired as we said our goodbyes. I considered I have a USB drive in my bag with 10 years worth of receipts about all the women who are similar to us, who'd been hushed by family loyalty. Ready, I replied, let's show them what Jezebel's daughters are truly capable. At precisely 7:00 p.m., the doorbell rang. Observed via my security camera as Dad straightened his tie and Mom combed her hair, their combat armor for. Bobby, who was standing behind them and appeared less assured than normal, buzzed them in Zechariah, and Lucia were. Documents strewn around the table in my home office. Already sitting, Elena. Sweetheart, I called back when I heard my mother's voice echoing down the corridor. Walked in, stuttering a little as he saw Lucia's mother's face turn pale. What is? Why is she here? Sitting. Dad questioned. It's what people do, Lucia said calmly. Typically carry out in the course of financial audits. Financial. What is this, Elena? Mom's. With a quivering voice, I motioned to the seats, saying, please sit down, we have a lot to talk about, whether this has to do with Bobby's house that Dad started, or if it's about anything I Stopped me from opening my laptop for every loan, emergency, and money that was missing. I'm not sure what caused Mom's hand to fly to her throat, even in the villa in Spain. We have all of the evidence, Zechariah. So save it, Lucia cut in. Mr. Bennett cleared his throat. I'm afraid you're in quite a major fraud case involving falsified signatures and an unapproved property sale. Stupid Dad smashed his fist on the table. Stop it, Elenina, we're family. So at the moment, I opened the spreadsheet for my karma audit, as I had begun to refer to it. Let's begin with the previous. You needed $15,000 in March of last year for Mom's knee surgery, but the money never arrived. The hospital $12,000 in April to fix Dad's truck, and $8,000 for your. Bobby interrupted, but I corrected you, and we paid you back for the June anniversary cruise. Elena Mom's voice changed to one of desperation. Promise to pay me back. Everything we did was for this. Family, you're wealthy and accomplished, so might I turn the laptop toward them since I was delaying my own life by taking out business loans while I was paying your bills. Depleting my savings while you were surreptitiously transferring funds to Bobby's house fund. Dad got up. Lucia stated quietly that this is accountability, not emotional manipulation. I took out a manila envelope that this family has always been allergic to. Includes proof that the Spanish villa property, which belonged to all of the grandchildren, was sold without permission. Just you, Mom, care to explain? You're ruining this family. Mom started crying. In reality, Zechariah intervened in the bogus real estate transaction. Stolen money, faked signatures, and what seems to be a pattern of financial exploitation. Bobby has stopped making house payments, and you're not going to help at all. I informed Nick's lawyer over the phone yesterday that you knew you couldn't afford it and that you were depending on me to bail you out as usual. You're both my brother and sister, but that. Your bank. Dad stepped toward the door as we were leaving, but that doesn't mean I answered calmly, absurd. Go if you wish, but these records are going to the authorities in any case. The only thing to decide is whether you would rather deal with this in private or in court, which you wouldn't dare do. Mom said in a whisper. Lucia laughed sharply and coldly, as if you were daring to betray my confidence. It was different, Mom, since you had the audacity to sell property that wasn't yours. Objected to my question because you believed it would benefit you. Never fear the repercussions. Silence hung thick in the room. Suffocating silence. Zechariah said, this is what's going to happen. Withdrawing. Additional agreements that you will sign will acknowledge the debt, which you will pay back by selling your home. Dishonest real estate transaction, and you'll either abandon Elena and Lucia or challenge Dad, or I'll file these documents. Early next morning, your mom fell into a chair. Bobby sobbed as he looked at the floor, and his father's face had become frighteningly red. I genuinely glanced at Elena's mother as she gasped out, "Will you ever forgive us? She was the one who taught me to be strong and then disliked me for it. She betrayed me while preaching loyalty to family." I said softly, "You did that by yourself. I didn't do this to hurt you. Every time you lied, every time you took, and every time you picked Bobby over me. Took and took, saying, 'Love, please sign the papers on the table.' Don't, but in any case, we're finished." They shook their hands and signed one by one. Bobby glanced back as they departed, signing, "You know this makes you just like them." "Yes, using money to harm others is wrong. Lucia clarified this for me, which makes her astute enough to prevent others from harming her." The door shut behind them in the. Suddenly there was silence, and I could hear my heart thumping strongly and steadily. Zechariah collected the Phase 1 documents that I requested. Lucia grinned, recalling the collaboration where we talked about the need to assist other daughters in escaping their bonds. "Are you prepared for this?" Monica asked, watching me hover over the post button. "Once it's. You can't take it back out there." I looked at my Reddit screen. After waiting, I finally documented the 10 years of financial exploitation in my family. I clicked within hours after saying, "It needs to be told," and ultimately stopping it. The post received hundreds of comments and thousands of upvotes, many of which shared similar tales of women who are drained by their entitled siblings and stuck by family obligations. Lucia referred to a comment that said, "My parents reorganized their finances because of guilt. House 3 times. And each time they forced me to pay for it because family supports family, and I was able to save their house while losing mine. I noticed your post and my phone rang with a message from an unknown number. Occurred to me, how did you escape, and could you kindly assist my brother? Damaging my credit, and my parents also falsified my signature. Monica murmured gently, "You've started something," and I opened my inbox to discover a message from a well-known internet magazine. "Would you mind sharing your story? We think this is." Lucia leaned over my shoulder to complete it as part of a bigger design, but first I have to demonstrate. She took out her laptop and opened the family folder. Archives recall that I kept track of everything she clicked on, including files, emails, and bank statements. Voice recordings. It wasn't only about the cash. Take a look at these. Texts showed that Mom was working with other family members to figure out how to apply pressure. Dad talked about how to use my responsibilities as a daughter Bobby to get me into different loans. Declaring that he had no intention of paying back anything, they had a full system in place, which Lucia described as a playbook for emotional manipulation, and they used it to other people before us. A text message appeared on my phone. "You must view this Bobby's bankruptcy filing from Zechariah, which lists you as a creditor." "Of course he did," I whispered, "but that's not all, Zechariah." Monica seized her and went on, "Your parents are attempting to argue that you stole from them. They're creating a counter-narrative. Already on damage control," she said, referring to my widely shared Reddit piece where I couldn't keep up with the influx of encouraging remarks. "Let them try," Lucia answered. "We have receipts." Literal and symbolic. I began drafting my reply to the publication, saying, "Yes, I will share my tale, but it's more extensive. It's about generational patterns of financial abuse masquerading as family, not just me." "Hey wait," but Monica cut you off. "Take a look at this." She rotated her screen to display a Mom's heartbreaking Facebook post. "We need to confront the lies being propagated. Regarding our family, our daughter has chosen money after being influenced by harmful people." Lucia laughed at the blood toxin-filled people, which is rich coming from the. My phone buzzed once more. "Nick Elena, the person who stole her niece's trust fund. We need." "Bobby brought me some documents to talk about, but they don't match the ones you sent." Zechariah texted me almost away, and I could tell they were desperate. I looked at the increasing number of women who responded to my post by sharing their personal narratives. The trend became evident as soon as I did. I opened a new document and began writing an open letter to girls who I had been planning for months. "I see that you were the ones who were told that love equates to having no money. Accounts, the people who were accused of being self-centered for setting boundaries, the people who were made to feel bad about their achievement." Monica inquired, "What are you doing creating?" I responded with a roadmap for any lady who has to flee what I did. Lucia nodded in agreement, adding the documentation tactics and legal resources. My phone kept vibrating with new messages, tales, and all we learnt. "Women who discover their voice will accuse you of being resentful," Monica warned. "Let them air your filthy laundry," I murmured, continuing to type. "The truth doesn't need to." With their consent, a notification appeared that Bobby had returned to Facebook Live, shedding tears over betrayal in the family, but this time the comments were insensitive and more tales were coming to light. Zechariah texted other victims of his financial schemes, saying, "Your parents just listed their house below. They're rushing for market value." Lucia grabbed my shoulder in preparation for step 2. I glanced at the expanding group of ladies on my screen as they shared their experiences with the blueprint we were developing for. I responded, adding a final sentence to my message: "Escape and recovery more than ready." Open letter to all daughters who were forced to pay for the family privilege. Your value isn't determined by your freedom begins the moment you stop giving money or forgiving debts. I accepted my guilt as money and pushed post right as another message arrived. "We would also like to assist you in developing a formal program from a women's advocacy group." Seeing Lucia smile is something that many women crave. Sometimes the finest form of retaliation isn't being silent, but rather assisting people in discovering their. In order to make it a tax write-off, Monica raised her coffee cup in a gesture of karma. "Your brother forged your signature," Zechariah declared, repeatedly strewing documents across my desk. Actually, I looked at the credit card, loan, and even auto lease applications. Documents during Bobby's awkward attempt to copy my signature whilst over the. He was preparing a safety net last year in case the house plan collapsed. Zechariah pointed to a date that was only 2 weeks prior to the date they gave. Lucia, who had been silently watching, leaned forward to give him the down payment, and he knew. Everyone was aware that this would occur, so when my phone buzzed, Monica sent screenshots of Mom's most recent social media campaign called Prayer Warriors Needed, because Satan is targeting our due of material greed. The family is selling the house, according to Lucia, who said she looked through her phone and saw it listed. Zechariah had to explain the deception yesterday, much below market value. Since the inquiry is moving forward, it might be preferable to sell now rather than lose it in court. Nick Elena sent me a text message saying, "I'm pressing charges against Bobby the." I began typing a comment after you revealed evidence that there are many more victims. Bobby stood there, his face hot and eyes frantic, when my office door exploded open asking how could you? "They're losing everything because of you," he said. "Sir, you cannot be here." "Because of me?" My assistant called from behind him. I got up. Gradually, not as a result of the forgery, fraud, and years of thievery that were disguised as. I was planning to repay the family debt after the house appreciated and you had more money. I showed him the fake paperwork, and he took the money from me. Zechariah, the investigators, will have to clarify those a little. Bobby's face crumpled when they interrupted, clearly interested in your explanation. Mom and Dad are heartbroken that they may lose their retirement because they decided to allow you, Lucia remarked icily, while Elena just revealed what they had done to herself. I answered the phone on speaker Elena when my dad called, but his voice was harsh, so we need to talk face to face, Dad. There is nothing else to say. Please, your mother is not feeling well. The tension of being discovered interrupted the silence, and then Lucia. Uncle Stuart is merely assisting my kid, but you're still damaging her mental health. Obviously saw something you didn't want. Bobby approached me with his hands up. I beg you, sis, so that we can correct this and make it right. I pulled up. Such as the $15,000 you borrowed for your startup or the $8,000 for your record-keeping binder. Ring from my ex-girlfriend, or should we discuss the credit cards you obtained in my name? I was in a terrible situation, and you felt entitled. The difference has been fixed. My assistant showed up with a security. Bobby didn't fight when they released him, but his final words lingered. You'll regret ruining this family. Lucia replied gently, we're just refusing to sync with each other. The family destroyed itself. I received a message from the Women's Advocacy Group support group when my phone buzzed once again. 20 women have already signed up for the launch next week. You're changing lives, Dad. Remain on the line, Elena. Just stop this and say whatever you want. Name your price. That's the issue, Dad. If you continue to believe that this is about money, what should you do? I considered the women in the support group regarding Lucia's stolen trust fund regarding years of deceit and shame. I want you to know what. Not only did you teach me to sacrifice myself for my family, but you also taught every lady you treated to do the same for her daughters. Like a bank account, we adored you. No, you used me, he muttered. There's a distinction there as well. After I hung up, Lucia showed me her parents' phones. They're conducting an immediate closure because the house sold for much less than its true value. She watched, so I told them, the paperwork is already with the Zachariah's documents were collected by authorities, and the fraud probe continues. Public, more victims will come out next week. This is more significant than your family. My phone just rang with another message. You gave me the confidence to check my credit record after hearing from a woman in the support group that my parents had taken out loans in my name as well. I appreciate you assisting me in seeing the reality, which is what frightens them the most, Lucia laughed. Not because of the money or the potential legal repercussions. When the truth was eventually revealed, I glanced around my office at the proof that I had succeeded in the life I had created in spite of. You know what Mom used to say, they said, emerging from the embers of all they had attempted to demolish in the town. Lucia grinned grimly as I said, a good daughter keeps family secrets. We no longer care about being decent children. My phone buzzed one more time, Monica, and your narrative just became. When this was picked up by a large network and prepared to go national, I considered all the other girls who were drowning. I said, it's time everyone heard, in reference to financial abuse and familial obligations. Financial freedom for daughters. The truth I spoke to the crowded. I'm Elena, and like many of you, I was taught that love entails. Hundreds of ladies with empty bank accounts stared back at me, some crying, some. Lucia stood at the back, giving me a look while everyone nodded in acknowledgement. I went on to say that we will be discussing breaking chains today. The distinction between financial abuse regarding the door and family loyalty. In an attempt to blend in with the back row, Mom slipped in skinny and pale. After a brief exchange of glances, I went on to discuss the moment you discover That after the session, when women lined up, saying no doesn't make you a bad daughter. Monica hurried over with her laptop to relay their story, saying, Bobby's sentencing just came down. Declares, and Dad, 3 years for fraud. Nick's testimony sealed it. Monica said, fled to Spain last week, in response to the question of joining us, but the property fraud is well known to the authorities there, so it will just take time. I saw Mom still seated in. When our gazes locked again, the woman in the rear, holding her pocketbook, got up and approached. I saw your interview on Slowly Elena, and her voice was hardly audible. I questioned everything on TV, including the sections regarding the falsified paperwork. Bobby advised us to save the stolen trust monies, but she winced because I was unaware of it. You understood enough that your mother's hands were clenched around your father's. Not well, the tension of the repercussions I fixed was different from. We're losing everything, she said, because of the anguish he caused me over the years. Silently, Mom, you're losing things that were never truly yours, including me. I want to show you something, she said, reaching for her phone with trembling hands. A well-known spreadsheet that I've been updating with everything we did. Monica and Lucia looked at each other, so I asked. Because the deception, guilt, and thievery were all things you were correct about. She started crying and said, I was wrong, we were wrong, Mom. Let me finish. As I watched those women share their experiences today, they also shared my story, the one about what I did to my kid. After my mother's treatment of me, I considered Lucia's trust fund regarding generational. Mom proceeded to sell the house, and I'm using my portion to repay the trust. Fund Lucia's trust fund. It's a beginning, but it won't solve everything, Lucia added. My phone buzzed softly, and my mother had received another message from our support group. Called and stated that after seeing Elena's interview, she was at last prepared to discuss what had transpired. Mom straightened up straighter. If it's okay with you, I'd like to share my experience about being the mother who hurt her daughter. Perhaps it would encourage other moms to stop. I saw Lucia, who dozed a little. Thursday is the next session, so be prepared to share the whole truth. I will. She turned to go but stopped, saying, I'm sorry, Elena, not because. After she departed, Monica whistled low, and we were detected because we had injured you. Was surprising. I thought she meant it when Lucia asked, and I observed through the window as Mom walked to her car, a modest old model rather than the fancy sedan she used to drive, perhaps in response to my question, but that's. My phone was flooded with news about more women finding their voice and more daughters gaining their freedom, but I don't see why we do this anymore. Lucia squeezed my shoulder in preparation for the upcoming session, which included more mothers facing the reality. Glanced around the room where my mother had finally spoken the truth after hundreds of ladies had just finished sharing their tales. Rather of using manipulation to break patterns one narrative at a time, you. After I informed them that family is everything until success, Bobby said to me, causes you to lose sight of your origins. Monica then reminded him that he was not successful. Didn't cause me to forget, but it did remind me of who I am not. Them, but because I lived through them. My phone buzzed once more with a message. Lucia's account was reinstated following the repayment of the Zechariah Trust Fund. Speaking of justice, Lucia grinned as the non-profit paperwork arrived. After the official inauguration of the Daughters Freedom Fund, Monica reared her. I considered Mom's water bottle to karma and making it sustainable. Emotional admission regarding Bobby's imprisonment for his father's escape. Repercussions for all the daughters who are still figuring out how to be free to tell the truth, which I fixed, and for all the ladies. The sun was lowering on another day of breaking chains, and those who had the courage to say it outside would have more stories to tell tomorrow. More women preferring their own needs over their responsibilities to their families. But tonight, when the truth was finally revealed in this room, I was no longer the decent daughter, the handy ATM, or I was just Elena, a family fixer, and that was more than.